Hi, I'm Brian Johnson, and although you probably accidentally stumbled across it and have no idea why you're watching it, you are in fact watching The Dorkening.
Hello, this is Tom Kenny, voice actor. The voice of the Ice King on Adventure Time. And SpongeBob SquarePants. Ah, meow. Oh, Gary the Snail, too. Hey, guess what you're filling your eye holes and ear holes with? The Dorkening! Oh, I love the Dorkening. Very popular in Ooh. And Bikini Bottom.
Hi, I'm Lou Ferrigno. You're watching The Dorkening. And you know what? You don't like me when I get angry, so don't get me angry. You better keep watching The Dorkening.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Denmead. You're watching The Dorkening. Stay tuned.
And we are now live on Splash Pages, the Comic Book Club. I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. With us today, we have the Velvet Joker himself. Rich, how's it going?
Good evening. How's everyone doing today?
Doing fine. And Chris, Spectacular Spider host Chris. How's it going, my friend?
What's up?
Okay, so today we are talking about I was gonna say Spectacular Spider-Man, but that's next. We're talking about the 4-issue miniseries with Wanda and Vision. So
We can talk about Spectacular Spider-Man first. It's okay.
Okay, so this miniseries was published November 1982 through February 1983. It's written by Bill Mantlo, co-creator of Rocket the Raccoon and Cloak and Dagger. It's penciled by Rick Leonardi from Haverhill, Massachusetts, a local. He worked in DC and Marvel, did a ton of stuff. And editor-in-chief at the time was Jim Shooter, and editor was Mark Grunwald. So their first key series together was published in the beginning of November 1982, which contained 4 issues. The limited series was written by Bill Mantlo and penciled by Rick Lombardi. I said that already. In this series, the villain, Magneto, is retconned as the father of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, while intending to give up his villainous ways of life. The reveal had some precious clues, which were revealed or released during Avengers and X-Men titles. This stayed as comic book canon for many decades until it was undone in 2014 crossover storyline Axis. And I just want to give you a little brief history. So 1982, 1983, the top movies at the time were E.T., Rocky III, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Return of the Jedi, Poltergeist, Tootsie, War Games, Trading Places, Conan the Barbarian, and also a little something called compact discs were introduced during that time. Michael Jackson released Thriller, and unfortunately, John Belushi died of drug overdose. And 125 million people tuned in to the ending of MASH.
Wow, that was quite an entertainment year.
Yeah, I know. I love doing some research as of where our minds were in '82. Some of us weren't even born yet, but a lot of us, have fond memories of that time. Hey, Angelina. Hi, it's 1 a.m. Won't stay long, tired tonight. We totally get it, but we love you for tuning in. Sergio's in the chat as well. And Facebook user, oh my God, a real clown. So I just read this myself, but let's start with the Velvet Joker. What did you think?
Well, I like the storyline. It may not have been super adventurous or mind blowing. I mean, at the time, like you said, that was a big deal for Magneto to become Wanda's father at the end. But I mean, I felt like every story was about family in one way or another.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you start off with the first issue was basically this Druid comes out of a book, and it turns out to be it's the living embodiment of it's written Samhain, but it's actually pronounced Samhain, which is the Celtic holiday with correlates with Halloween. So that was interesting. But at the end, they bring on Robert Frank, who was the Wizard in the Invaders comic back in the 50s and the 60s. And he thinks that he's Wanda's father, even though at one time she believed that to be the case, but she has since found out that he was not. But he did not know that information. So you had the family correlation there, and then the second episode, the second book. Whoa,
sorry.
No worries, no worries. Now, the second book was the Wonder Man connection, and how it talks about how Vision's they're like brothers because his brain patterns were used. The Wonder Man's brain patterns rather were used on Vision to sort of give him a personality. And it also way different from the MCU. They really give you Vision's true history, that his body was the original Human Torch from the Invaders, that Ultron manipulated, and then like I said, they took Wonder Man's brain patterns and put it onto him to make the Vision we have now.
Yeah, and they even did a series where when Vision's on the operating table and he's sort of like going in and out of consciousness, he's like having a fight within his own brain against Ultron. And yeah, that was shocking. I didn't know that it was the body of the Human Torch and the brains of Wonder Man. And
Right.
They thought Wonder Man died. That's why they transferred his essence. And then Wonder Man was just
Came back to bed.
Asleep for a while.
He was in a coma. He was ion particle something another. I mean, it's weird and complicated. I mean, even Wanda at one point brought Wonder Man back from the dead after he was killed in Force Works, which was a really crappy 90s comic book turned into the Iron Man animated series from the 90s. But the Visions, what's funny is that this whole thing with the Vision being the Human Torch would lead into the Wanda, I think it's probably the first time Wanda went nuts story, with the Vision being completely dissected, and you see every single piece of the Vision laid out on a table.
Right.
And the Vision Quest storyline, which eventually leads into the revelation of something about Wanda and Vision's kids, until that was retconned later on, and Wanda's kids are now some type of Quicksilver and Wiccan, the husband of Hulkling.
So
it's one retcon after another.
Wow, Joker, you're smart. We knew that. That's why we brought him in. And Chris too. You guys are like, definitely encyclopedia of comics. And we talk about it every week, but this is why, I wanted to start this up with you guys, because I fell out of comics and there's a lot of shit I don't know, especially with like watching WandaVision. And we know that the MCU, they take little bits and pieces from different storylines. And you can see some stuff was taken from the storyline. Like their house is in a little town in New Jersey.
Yes, Leonia, New Jersey.
Yeah, it's not Westview though.
No, it's not.
No.
No,
But yeah, they are trying to make themselves a normal life, and some interesting tidbits about this. When they first move into the house, they show Jarvis comes to help them.
yes.
Now, for those who don't know, Jarvis is Batman, is like Alfred, but for the Avengers. He comes from a military background. Before they had an AI, they had a human butler named Jarvis.
Yeah, and he only showed up in Endgame, right?
No, he was in Peggy Carter, the TV series, for every episode because he was Howard Stark's butler.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't watch Peggy Carter.
Which allowed Peggy Carter, like that made like Peggy Carter the first series to have a crossover with the movies, because let's face it, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they never referenced anything that ever happened on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at all, not even once. But Peggy Carter, that was the first time we'd actually had a crossover with the TV show finally.
I thought Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was supposed to do like a crossover with Thor to Dark World. They were doing like the cleanup afterwards.
Nope.
No?
But okay, so that happened on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And anytime something happened in the movies, it would affect Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, for instance, the first season when, they had their mid-season break and they didn't understand what was happening and who was taking over. Then we had Captain America, Winter Soldier come out, and then the mid-season break comes back and it's revealed that it's Hydra. That was very carefully planned, but that's the closest it came. And then because years later, when they do the Thanos snap thing, it's never once ever mentioned on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that, half the entire galaxy's population just got murdered, and 5 years later. It's the worst. And that's because Ike Perlmutter and Kevin Feige do not get along. And Ike Perlmutter was in charge of a lot of that stuff. Ike Perlmutter is the guy who basically runs Marvel Comics, too.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't really care for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Last season was pretty good. They did a lot of time travel episodes. They were in a different time period in every season, every episode of the season. Very cool.
I think I watched the first 2 seasons of that.
So, Chris, I know we talked before this, but you didn't really care for this miniseries, did you?
I mean, the only thing I ever got out of it was, the revelation that Magneto's their dad. And, he's like, oh, well, yay, I'm your father and I'm going to be good. I mean, I think, what year did this come out?
82.
Yeah, 82.
Okay. So I think this was around the time of X-Men number 200, where Magneto just suddenly becomes a good guy because Xavier gets injured and he decides, I'm going to lead the school now.
Oh, with his purple outfit.
His giant M outfit, yeah, which then, again, this is all written by Chris Claremont, so Claremont would come back around later on and be like, nope, Magneto's a son of a gun, and he's going to tilt the world on its axis and destroy everything. Issue number 4, we have Magneto running in the cover, and this was mentioned earlier, but Wondagore, and we actually get to see the midwife, which is a half cow, half person, I imagine. Yes, which will tie into an event we will probably not cover at all on the podcast because it's so boring, but I have to cover it on Spectacular. The midwife cow woman is created by the High Evolutionary.
Okay. And
there's a giant multi-book crossover event coming up at some point on Spectacular. I have to cover one annual of. I mean, the rest of the podcast can cover it if they really want to, but it's a really dull story.
The Evolutionary War, right, Chris?
Yeah, 30 annuals. Yeah, 30 freaking annuals.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the only issue that's important to cover is the one tied to the Clone Saga, because the High Evolutionary, the Jackal, Norman Osborn, it's a mess to explain, and we'll get there later.
Facebook user, for some reason I don't see her name. They say, "Ugh, I can't do comic books. Sorry, Leo. Fucking too much chaos in the layout."
Sequential art could be really difficult for people to read sometimes, but that's what the app on your Kindle makes it very easy to basically just slide between every single panel, so you're not looking at the entire page full of panels.
Yeah, Marvel Unlimited
had that problem once.
What's that?
I said I dated somebody who had a big problem trying to read comic books until I showed her the app.
Yeah, it's you definitely have to get used to it, but Marvel Unlimited does that as well.
Right. By the way, that issue of X-Men was in 1985, so we were a little ways away, but I think that was the beginning steps of turning Magneto into somewhat of a good guy before they turned him back into a bad guy.
Yep.
and now he's pretty much a good guy again, I guess.
Yeah. The final confrontation takes place on the moon, where Wanda goes to save her brother Pietro, who is alive in this comic.
Also a son of a bitch.
He had they even make him look like Magneto.
Now, do you know that Pietro and Wanda were actually the children of Wolverine in the Ultimate X-Men universe?
No.
Yes, and they were also like the Lannister twins.
Oh, Facebook user is Matt from my old job, Tease Plus. Hey, Matt, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, they were the daughter and son of Wolverine, and they were like the Lannister twins.
Wow. And was that retconned or is that current?
The Ultimate Universe doesn't exist anymore. I mean, that was destroyed during the Secret Wars. Miles and his family were basically Miles, his family, and the Ultimate Reed Richards are the only survivors.
Gotcha.
What's funny about that though is that in the Age of Ultron movie, where they're played by Elizabeth Olsen, and I forget who plays her brother before he's killed, they had just a year before those two actors played husband and wife in Godzilla, the 2014 Godzilla.
Yep.
So, which was very, very funny to see them now playing twin brother and sister. Like, they don't have any big scene together other than like kissing, but she does like crawl into his lap to give him a kiss, and you're just like, I already know these two are playing the twins, Pietro and Wanda, later on. This is really awkward to watch. And I know they're actors, they're not really blood related, but still. Captain America Winter Soldier had just come out a month before that movie that showcased them at the during the the teaser, the clip that plays at the end of the credits.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, it looks like WandaVision is going to tie more into that. Angelina says, I believe she's replying to Matt, who can't do comics. She says, or we can listen to you all and we'll know what happens. We try our best. We're going to be going into reviews shortly as well, as of how many crowbars we're going to give it.
Are we also talk about WandaVision, the show, and what we're caught up to?
We can, yeah, totally.
There's a mid-season trailer out on IMDb right now.
Yes. So I've seen some stuff, and I'm going to try to watch what I say, because some big spoilers dropped. Actually, it looked like it was the coming soon scenes for like the next 2 episodes.
Oh, cool.
Well, chances are you're not going to see it because the mouse smacked the guy down hard and they kind of like purged the video from the internet.
Oh, it was like a leaked video? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was leaked video that showed scenes from like the next couple episodes.
Oh.
Yeah. And the guy got he was from overseas and translated text. Yeah, he like apologized for sharing pirated video, and yeah, it's the mouse down hard. But because of that, they were considering, actually, rumor was that they were going to release 2 episodes this week, but they decided not to.
Did I hear something about also a rumor about a possible bonus episode at the end we don't know about?
Oh, that would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, we were talking prior to this, and before you came on, Chris, is this is the beginning of Phase 4, WandaVision. So they can really stem a lot from this. There was some rumor that the talk of the missing astronauts, that could be a tie-in to Fantastic Four. They could bring mutants into this, and that could bring in the X-Men.
Right, and I mean, they're gonna speed foon us every week. There's still the rumor that Benedict Cumberbatch could be showing up, which is completely possible. He's contracted and filming, he starts filming next month. Mountain of the Multiverse of Madness with Sam Raimi, so that's great. But I mean, the what we've gotten in this episode is going to be probably how it's going to go going forward. Like on Kevin Smith's podcast, he talked about how like we had 3 episodes set in the TV world. We had 1 whole episode set in the real world. Going forward, it's going to be half and half. We're going to get half that TV show thing. We're going to get that 80s sitcom coming up like Three's Company. And we're going to see obviously Wanda and Vision dressed up like their comic book counterparts finally in ridiculous flamboyant colored costumes for Halloween. But we're also going to get like half an episode set up with Darcy and Agent Wong. No, not Agent Wong. The guy from Ant-Man and Wasp.
Agent Wu. Agent Wu.
Yeah, who, by the way, Agent Wu has confirmed he was not snapped away because it took him 5 years to figure out Ant-Man's card trick.
Yeah, I read that.
But it's also fantastic to see Kat Denning. Huge fan of hers.
Yeah, she's awesome. I loved her from Two Broke Girls. And it was great to see her in Thor. And, speaking of, the Halloween costumes and stuff, another thing, this whole series started off in Halloween, and that brought in some demons. And, maybe that's something that they'll take a snippet from and add it to the show.
Right. And you got to think about like, okay, so they're dealing with something clearly magical. I mean, their swords kind of figuring this out. It's something to do with Wanda. Why wouldn't they call the only person they know who can deal with magic stuff? Doctor Strange.
Yep.
It's like what you do in comic books. When there is magic crap, you go to Doctor Strange or Brother Voodoo, but we haven't established Brother Voodoo or anything like that in the show. So, I mean, that just happened with Spider-Man. He was dealing with magic crap and went to Doctor Strange. And then, of course, Doctor Strange, he touched something he wasn't supposed to. And that's when Doctor Strange, by the way, found out about Peter's little Mephisto deal from way back in the day, about 10 years ago now going on. If you can believe that, by the way, One More Day was like 13 years ago.
Wow. Tim Jones says, loving WandaVision. And if you don't know Tim Jones, he does the Sour Grapes comic. And absolutely love everything you do, Tim. And so we learned a couple things from this miniseries. And, for me being the novice, especially in Marvel, we learned that, Wanda's magic is a probability field from her mutant side and then teamed with true magic. And then she learned a true magic from Agatha Harkness. And some people are thinking that Agnes in WandaVision is Agatha Harkness.
Right.
Okay, so here's what I think about who all of those people are. What was the beginning of the episode about? Episode 4. What was it? What was it about?
It was started with the blip.
Yep, the reverse of the blip, and we find out unceremoniously. I kind of hate it when they do this. They kill off Captain Marvel's bestie of cancer.
Yeah. Well, just real quick, Angelina, thanks for joining. She says, thanks for another great show. Really can't stay awake tonight. We greatly appreciate you joining us. She's tuning in all the way from the UK.
Thanks, Angelina.
Hey. And sorry, continue, Chris.
Then we have a little bit of a time jump, a tiny time jump, probably from the end of the blip happened. These Marvel movies seem to take place in somewhat of real time, with the exception of the 5-year gap, obviously. So they're now in 2023.
Well, so real quick, so this is 3 weeks past Endgame. But if you remember, Spider-Man Homecoming is farther than that.
It's about 6 months, they said.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they talk about like months ago, brave heroes, blah, 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 the news report with Betty Brant. Anyway, I think everyone in the town is people who don't have any place to go anymore because of the blip. Like basically Shield bought a town, Shield or Sword or the government bought a town. You got no place to go because your family died in the 5 years or whatever. You know what I mean? Don't forget, they finally give us the seriousness of being 5 years blipped. We still haven't gotten to like how many planes came crashing out of the sky and just murdered entire buildings full of people. The pilots disappeared. You know what I mean?
Oh, I thought that was so.
I'm sure Iron Man was dead, and they didn't have enough heroes to go flying around catching planes and stuff like that. When because he was in space.
You're assuming the planes came back. How do you know people just didn't drop out of the sky? Because it only affected the people, not the technology.
So I thought they explained this because when Hulk did a snap to bring everyone back, it was he wished for everybody to come back safely.
Yes. The commentary with the directors, the Russo brothers, do talk about saying, okay, so just to clarify with everybody who's listening to the commentary, everyone landed on the ground. If they were in the sky, if they were on a boat in the water, no, they're not drowning in the middle of an ocean with a bunch of sharks eating them. They wanted to like put all the trolls to rest about that. However, when the blip did happen the first time, when Thanos snapped his fingers, how many pilots got blipped out and the planes full of people went crashing into the ground, killing everyone? It was probably 9/11 all over again. But
well, yeah, because
we're gonna probably cross that bridge in a movie as much as they might do that in a TV series showing planes smashing into buildings out of respect for real world events.
Well, they have about 8 different people in a cockpit usually, so if one of them blips out, there's a good shot that they could still get down safely.
Okay, but the entire cockpit of people, the entire cockpit of captains blips out.
Oh, then they're in trouble.
Yeah. Trains, all the car accidents that probably happened.
Well, also, with the confusion, who's going to be thinking of that? But not Endgame, Infinity War. At the end of that, don't we see a helicopter crashing with Sam Jackson? Pretty sure that happened.
Yeah, he at the end of Infinity War, we do see the chaos.
Yeah. So, Rich, what are your theories with this WandaVision or your overall thoughts?
WandaVision. Well, I don't know where it's going, and I love that. Yeah. I was sort of predicting some stuff coming into before this reveal episode. I mean, the blip was a big surprise, and that was very cool. And then when you see the very last scene where Monica Rambeau comes out of the thing and she says, "It's all Wanda. It's all Wanda." So now the big question is Wanda cognizant? Or is Wanda somewhat cognizant, but she's being controlled or manipulated? I mean, that's the big thing. And it was interesting seeing one side of, we saw the beginning episodes, and then they show us the scenes. This is how it really was. But we were seeing it the first time, it was through Wanda's eyes. But this is, like the beekeeper was actually just a guy in a hazmat suit. Where'd those bees come from?
Yeah, and we don't know where he went to because they didn't show that.
Right.
Yeah, once he came out of the tunnel, we don't know what happened to him.
No, we just know that she rewound everything, and I like it how we're seeing it differently from Wanda's point of view from what they're seeing on the TV. They're just seeing like a quick blip with the edit where we're seeing like the rewind and everything.
Right. And when they first showed that the Vision looking like the dead Vision, that was pretty creepy and surprising.
Yeah, and you had so many people online saying like, is it necrophilia? Because
is she animating a dead corpse? Is she?
No,
that'd be fairly dark.
Oh yeah.
Vision not being alive, I don't think that would be necrophilia.
Well, he's.
But if you want an expert on, if we're gonna get into necrophilia and cover a necrophilia,
no, we're not.
I got my co-host from one of my other podcasts who was very much into it. So,
yeah, no. Let's not.
Oh, come on, we should have an open mind on this podcast about things. And people,
we have an open mind, but not no. Yeah, I'm gonna refrain from saying stuff because I know I'm gonna leak something because I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, there's some cool.
Let's see. So this series, I'm gonna give it 3.5 crowbars. But right now, WandaVision, I'm giving 4.5 crowbars.
4.5.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying WandaVision. Harley and I, we've been talking about the episode for days now.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give it, for the mini series, I'm going to give it 3 crowbars. It was interesting trying to think about if WandaVision wasn't out already, if I wasn't already watching it, I probably would have given it less crowbars, but reading this, trying to pick out, thinking of like as a Marvel writer, trying to think what could I pick out for this for WandaVision, trying to make that connection was a lot of fun. But the overall story, I agree, it's a long story just to bring up Magneto as the father. It was enjoyable, but it wasn't superb. And WandaVision, 5 crowbars, definitely.
Ooh, 5 crowbars.
5 crowbars, loving,
Maximum.
loving every minute. I've watched every episode. So when it comes out, I watch it right away so I don't get spoiled.
Good.
And then I rewatch it with my wife later. I got her into watching it, and she's gonna watch Doctor Strange with me as well. She doesn't like to do like the Marvel movies, but
you should show her the Peter Horton Doctor Strange from the 70s. It's available. Not joking. It's available on DVD from Shout Factory.
Really?
Yep. They have all the crappy Marvel's crap. Like they got the 90s Captain America, the 70s Captain America, and they have Doctor Strange, and they did have Nick Fury for a little while, but it's out of print.
Well, I have the 90s Captain America. I have the Fantastic Four from the 90s as well. I need to add the 70s Captain America.
You bootlegger, you. Roger Corman needs his money.
So, Chris, how many crowbars would you give the series in WandaVision?
I guess 2.5, maybe. I'm not a huge fan of it, and I'm not a big rater on stuff, so. But that's all I got to say about this episode.
What about WandaVision in itself?
Oh, the show itself is slow going, but it's okay. Well, I'm gonna wait till the whole show is over.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, we're going to take a quick break for our sponsor's commercial, Deadly Grounds. And they're a little mom and pop shop here in Connecticut. Make the best coffee you'll ever have. But here's a zombie talking about coffee. And when we come back, we're going to be talking Spider-Man. Here we go.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
And just head on over to getdeadly.com. I got information in the show notes down below or up above, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. And so, Spectacular Spider-Man, issue 139. This is from June 1988. Movies in the theater were Willow, Rambo 3, Big, Funny Farm, Roger Rabbit, Coming to America. And for TV, Morton Downey Jr. debuted. If you don't know who Morton Downey Jr. is, picture Jerry Springer. It's like the birth of Jerry Springer. So
cigarettes.
But yeah, cigarettes. Definitely, Google Morton Downey Jr. He's not Robert Downey Jr.'s kin or anything. But, so with Spectacular Spider-Man 139, it's written by Jerry Conway. Art is Sal Buscema, and editor at the time was Jim Sailcrop. And at last, the sinister origin of the man called Tombstone. What is his strange connection to Joe Robertson? This issue tells it all. Joe Robertson is a man haunted by his past. Many years ago in Philadelphia, he remained silent after witnessing Tombstone commit a homicide. Now, Tombstone has come to New York, and Robbie decides that it's time to make amends. And it's a decision that may cost Robbie his life if the web slinger doesn't get to Battery Park in time. Original appearance by the Arranger. And the letters page included a letter from comics publisher Charles Novinsky. There we go. Take us away, Chris.
Well, first off the bat, because I didn't really go into it. I mean, this is Tombstone's second or third appearance because he appeared in Web of Spider-Man recently, issue 35. But in a quick drive-by, that's where Robbie freaks out. But I wanted to go a little bit about Robbie Robertson. He was created way back in 1967 in Amazing Spider-Man number 51 by Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. John Romita Sr. took over the book from Steve Ditko, and he was written as he's considered to be the first African American comic book character that's written as a supporting role, a serious supporting role, and not comic book relief. So he actually does also predate, I think, Black Panther just by a little bit, but he's not a superhero. He's just a guy that puts Jameson in line. But we didn't really get his backstory until right here. I mean, they created him in 1967, but we never got his origin story until just this issue that we're covering, which is pretty funny when you think about it. Also, if you remember, Robbie Robinson has been made live action. He was in the first 3 Spider-Man movies. He hasn't appeared in any of the films since then, like the Amazing Spider-Man or the Marvel Universe Spider-Man films.
Oh, he was in the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans?
Yeah, he was in all 3 of the original Sam Raimi films.
Okay, I think I remember that now.
Yep. He even says he even says something about, we haven't seen Spider-Man in a while, Peter. Gives him fun, guys. But for years, and the one time Peter revealed his identity to everybody, but that got fixed, and no one remembers. For years, Peter has always wondered, does Robbie know that I'm Spider-Man? Which is pretty funny when you think about the fact that Jameson does know Peter is Spider-Man today.
Yeah, I am not up to date on Spider-Man.
So we open the issue with someone trying to take a shot at Peter and Spider-Man. And I just absolutely love the way Sal draws Spidey in these panels very quickly. Like the one where he just goes dumb and then pops the guy right in the chin, knocking him unconscious. But the guy is actually gunning for Robbie Robertson and Joseph Robbie Robertson. And he goes to Peter's apartment. Peter goes to Robbie's office, and picks up this old ancient archaic device that we call a tape recorder. And presses play, and he hears a story of Robbie's entire life story, his origin story, about how he was a newspaper reporter for his high school, and he was going to write an expose on one of his classmates, a.k.a. Tombstone, who was a albino African American.
So I got one gripe. It's raining, and he's listening to the tape recorder in the rain.
Yeah, that's a little strange. I mean, it's just like Batman sits there in the rain or whatever, reminiscing about some lost love of his in the Batman Mask of the Phantasm movie. And it's like, really? Of all the places to just sit there in the rain and have a freaking flashback.
Makes him brood a little more.
Yeah.
Maybe he emits a spider aura around him to protect him.
That's confusing with another superhero. Kate Cushing and Jameson think they hear Robbie's voice, and he wants to help his friend because Robbie is a stand-up man to Jameson. He's the only person that could probably stand up to J. Jonah Jameson. Back over at the Kingpin's tower, the Arranger, who is a character that was created in the Daredevil comic books, he basically sets up stuff for the Kingpin. He has hired Tombstone to get the Persuader to work for Kingpin. Persuader basically has the mutant ability to mind control people, very similar to the Purple Man, but he's not purple.
So this also sets up Tombstone working with Kingpin, which in the most recent movie, the animated movie, which one was that?
Spider-Verse.
Tombstone is working with Kingpin as well in that.
Right. So back to the flashback, which is, by the way, the flashback panels are a little different than the regular panels. The flashback panels are a little rounded, whereas the regular panels are all their normal kind of sharp-edged squares.
Yeah, I like that.
Robbie gets the crap kicked out of him by Kingpin, like a thud in the face, a crack in the jaw, and then a thamp right in the front of the face. Like, this should have killed somebody. But this is before Tombstone would become like granite-like skin. So he's just a big, tough bully.
Yeah. And
you gotta think that a guy who's an albino African American, he probably has to grow up to become a tough guy. He's gotta be able to defend himself. And it probably really twisted him into the person he is. They don't really get into Tombstone's backstory right now. I think that comes later on about Tombstone being born to probably 2 black parents, but he comes out completely looking like the way he is. That probably really screwed him up.
I love the inclusion of the bullying and the high school story in this, because it definitely brings it down to earth. It's not all superheroes. It's somebody's real issues that they're talking about.
Right. Also, they constantly draw Tombstone with the jabber jaws like shark teeth.
Yeah.
Which is very funny because, he would have that off and on. Sometimes they draw him with regular teeth, and sometimes he has like shark teeth. I don't know why. Maybe he files them down and then gets implants. Who knows? Robbie goes to work for a Philadelphia newspaper, and he gets a hot tip and goes out to meet his informant, and Tombstone has killed his informant and gives him like the blinking eye, like, hey, we're still friends, aren't we? You're not going to tattle on me. And this entire scene where he realizes it's Tombstone who's just killed his informant, and the guy is all twisted up, bent out of shape, and Robbie trips over some cords, and then a light flashes into this guy's face. These entire scenes are just absolutely haunting.
Oh, totally.
And you can also tell Robbie's a very young man because he has a full head of black hair, whereas pretty much since Amazing Spider-Man number 51, he's always had gray or white hair. He decides he's going to go confront Tombstone by himself, which Peter hopes to be able to get to him in time. Robbie's had it. He's had it with being terrified by Tombstone, and he's going to take matters in his own hands. And Spider-Man wants the information from the arranger about Tombstone, but he won't give it up. And that is when Tombstone breaks Robbie's back like Bane does Batman. So he pulled a Bane before Bane did it.
So now, Chris, I got a good question for you. So now Robbie goes to shoot him, and he goes, oh, I'm wearing Kevlar. But I thought he did have some kind of like stone hard skin. Is that not at this point?
That never happens until like much later. And in the cartoon series, it was like, that's why he looks like the way he is. So in the cartoon series in the 90s, they don't get into the whole like he's an albino African American. He was just black, and then he gets dunked into the tank of chemicals like the Joker and comes out with the stone hard skin, and he's completely bleached white from head to toe.
Okay, so in the comics that never happened, the hard skin.
I think it does eventually, but I don't know when we'll get there, so I'm not going to comment on it right now.
Got it.
Now, if you, on the Still Story, Leo, if you want to bring up previews, if you can, the newest issue of Amazing Spider-Man has Robbie back-to-back with Tombstone, and Robbie's son, Randy, and Tombstone's daughter, who's the current female Beetle, are holding hands, and Spider-Man's like kind of like above them in between the image of Robbie and Tombstone. And I thought it was great that they're bringing that. That has been a plot line that has been going on for a couple of years now, that Randy Robinson is dating Tombstone's daughter. And I'm like, when are we finally going to get the fathers to confront each other?
So are you talking about last Wednesday's issue or a preview of an upcoming
It's
issue?
a preview of the upcoming Amazing Spider-Man. I think it's the March release schedule.
Is she a thief too, as the Beetle?
Yeah, no, she's not a good person. She's a straight up bitch. She's not a psychopath killer, but she's not afraid to kill to get what she wants. But she's not like her father. She's also a lawyer too, by the way. So she's also a dirty lawyer. And she is part-time leader sometimes of the Sinister Syndicate, and she's got a major hatred for Randy and Peter's roommate, which is Fred the Boomerang. Because she knows he's the Boomerang. Peter and Randy knows he's the Boomerang, but he's trying to like reform. And so it's like Randy, Peter, and Fred living together as roommates. And Peter has to keep his identity secret as Spider-Man. But they also have a living monster living with them, Gog, the monster who walks. So don't ask me how Peter keeps his identity secret. Anyway, Peter has pointed out to Randy more than enough times that, by the way, your girlfriend is a supervillain, right? She's the Beetle, and her father is Tombstone. And Randy's like, no, it's okay. She's trying to reform. And he's like, do realize the history her father has with your father, right? And Randy's like, yeah, we're not going to talk to my dad about that. But finally, at long last, the issue I've been waiting for is coming up. Randy and Beetle. I don't know the Beetle's name, but Randy and the Beetle's parents find out what's been going on. Which again, this has been going on for almost 2.5 years, maybe 3 years in the comics. In our time, sorry, 2 to 3 years in our time. In the comics, it's probably a few months. But this is a great first issue beginning of the Tombstone arc. This goes for 5 issues. So, and then we take a little bit of a break from it, and it picks back up again in Spectacular Spider-Man 150. But we'll get there.
Nice.
And then it says, next issue, Spider-Man is out for vengeance as he scours the city in search of the killer that broke Robbie's back. But there's another costume vigilante searching for Tombstone as well, one that's not as nice as Spidey. I think I revealed last week that it is Frank Castle, the Punisher, gets involved.
Oh, very cool.
Which was my first exposure to the Punisher, which is very cool. So, very impressionable at, age of 10 when I first read this, being like, who is a Punisher? What does he do? And then what did I do? There's a Punisher movie? I watched that.
That would have been the Dolph Lundgren one?
Yep, the Dolph Lundgren one, which is very funny when you think about it. The Dolph Lundgren movie came out the same year as Batman.
Really?
The ads in the rarely. It was being made in Australia, and Batman was being filmed in London at Pinewood Studios. So, we didn't live in the age of the internet at the time. So you got to think about whether or not newspapers got from England to Australia for them to find out that, we got competition with Batman. Just wanted to point out some of the ads in the issue, by the way. There's now you can be the next Joe, personalized G.I. Joe action figure. You can basically make your own G.I. Joe. And speaking of Daredevil and the Kingpin, she has to kill him. She loves him. Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, introducing Typhoid Mary and a tragic story of love and death, now on sale from Marvel. And this was the first appearance of Typhoid Mary, the split personality, schizophrenic, psychopathic assassin that Kingpin would hire.
Oh, wow.
Who would use her psychic powers to seduce Matt Murdock and sleep with him and break him up with Karen Page.
Right.
And there was also an ad for the Avengers number 291, the end of the Avengers, because this time period takes place after the events of the Avengers Siege story, where the Under Siege, where Baron Zemo and the Masters of Evil broke into Avengers Mansion.
Okay, the first Siege, the one we thought about covering for this week, not the
Under Siege, yes.
Okay,
like the movie.
Gotcha.
And then, by the way, so the Marvel Bulletins in here covers Jim Salicrup, who is an editor on the Amazing Spider-Man titles and Web of Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and What If.
I'm going to bring that up right here. Yeah, Salicrup's section.
Yep, Jim Salicrup. I don't know if he's still with us today, but he's the profile spotlight on. And they have a bunch of really cool questions in here. I'm not going to go over it. It makes the show longer than it needs to be. But
you do get somebody complaining about the mixed storylines. Let's see. Yeah, he's talking about there's too much crossover and too much confusion and the response.
Yeah, I see that letter right now. That person, Charles S. Novinsky, who, by the way, they print his address here, would not do that today. But Charles is an idiot because they have not done that many crossovers. They did the Kraven's Last Hunt story, and then a couple months later they did one other. But honestly, there has been barely any crossovers with the other Spider titles up to that point. And then they only did 2, and then they went back to being their own separate books with little things obviously trickling in, like Spider-Man switching from the black to the red and blue, or Peter and Mary Jane moving to the penthouse apartment, happening amazing. They got the apartment in Web. They had the big movie party in Web. They moved in amazing, and it affects the rest of the books. You know what I mean? They're packing up in one. It's not like you need to read the going away party to understand what's going on. They just threw that in there because that was what they wanted to write about.
Well, he says he says he enjoys the Sanquitz covers, but it's appeared to be too much fill-in story. He mentions, let's see, there hasn't been too much Spider-Man books since the wedding, since the honeymoon. Spider-Man's been drugged, buried alive for several weeks, and then shot and drugged and placed in a mental institution. All this and hardly any concern that from what we've seen from his newlywed wife or anyone at the Daily Bugle. I don't think, I hope we don't have any more of these epics planned for the near future.
Well, other than when like Marvel does a giant company crossover, no. I mean, we mentioned numerous times, Inferno and the Evolutionary War, but pretty much after that, no. It's all regulated to at least the annuals and Spectacular, Web of Amazing, and Adjectiveless Spider-Man, which doesn't come out for a few more years. All are self-contained up until Maximum Carnage.
Yeah, and that I think we talked about before. That's pretty much where I dropped out. There was way too many crossovers to keep up back then.
Well, we're gonna have to cover all 14 parts of Maximum Carnage. It's gonna be a great 1 month long show.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll put the Maximum Carnage game up on the still story with the music off, with the sound off, to stream it while we're talking about Maximum Carnage.
Maximum Carnage actually came up on last week's Still Token With as well. The artist, he played with a band that did the music for it.
Yeah, Green Jelly.
Yeah.
Yep. They were at Rocket Shock, by the way, the last year of Rocket Shock.
Yep. Yeah, he was there playing.
Yep. But we'll get there. We're Maximum Carnage is 1994. What year are we in, Leo? 1986.
88.
Yeah. 80.
Yep. And
yeah, we are so far away.
Yeah. And so for next week, it says next issue, Spider-Man is out for vengeance as he scours the city in search of the killer that broke Robbie's back. But there's another costume vigilante searching for Tombstone as well, one that's not as nice as Spidey.
Yakety yak, broke Robbie's back.
That's awesome. Chris, anything else you'd like to discuss about this?
No, we're pretty much on a one issue at a time schedule now, up till the High Evolutionary Clone Saga 149. So even Inferno will be doing one issue at a time because, well, the rest of the comic book show needs to cover the rest of Inferno, which is a lot of tie-ins and crossovers. So,
well, we'll do our best.
what will be the 3-part Inferno coverage because of all the crossovers and events or whatever, and the Spectacular show has 3 issues to cover?
Well, we can do we can, whatever you're doing for that issue, we can try to figure out a tie-in.
All right, that's the best way to do it because it's a giant, massive multiverse, Marvel Universe crossover with every single title they were putting out.
Cool beans.
You say that now, just wait.
Hey, I'm loving this. It's like I said before, I'm reading a lot more comics now. Matter of fact, and
then we got the next probably big crossover will be Cosmic Spider-Man, which was Acts of Vengeance, which was also a massive crossover event in every title. Spidey had cosmic powers, so we probably have to cover a couple of the other Spider books or whatever, just to at least reference them and say, oh, he fought Magneto and Amazing, but back in Spectacular, this is what he's doing. But Acts of Vengeance was huge.
So besides these, are you guys reading anything else on the side? Or I know, Chris, you're always reading something.
The Spider-Man books, like I mentioned, what's happening right now. Mr. Negative recently just came back and Amazing. We're still dealing with the fallout of Kindred in that. Don't have anything else to say other than, Mr. Negative came back and Kindred is still a problem. Harry Osborn. Liz just found out the truth that Harry is Kindred, his ex-wife and the mother of, little Normie Osborn, who a lot of that comes into play huge in our run of Spectacular eventually with Liz, Normie, Harry going nuts, Harry on drugs, Harry with daddy issues.
What about you, Velvet Joker? Are you reading anything on the side?
Truthfully, no, not at the moment.
Yeah. I just started Immortal Hulk.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
I just read. Yeah, phenomenal so far. So
Yep.
yeah, we'll have to talk about it on an upcoming episode. But we'll wrap things up. I know.
Actually, Leo, it's ending soon.
It is.
Yep.
Okay.
They're ending as of issue 50.
Oh, nice. I kind of like that. It's you start a storyline, you end it. Kind of like what Batman's been doing. For the since New 52. It's they start a storyline and then they kind of finish it. It seems like anyway, since Rebirth is kind of ended, right?
Rebirth's been over for years.
Well,
They're on the future state right now, which is basically like, I don't know, like 10 years in the future. So we're doing another future DC story, and it's affecting every freaking title, and all these new characters and IP are being created, like Lucius Fox's Batman, or not Lucas Fox, but Lucas Fox.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it started with Rebirth, and they ended with spoiler: Alfred dying, Batman losing his all his money, and him moving into apartment with Cat. That's the last I saw, and that's right before Future State.
Well, did the Death Metal series sort of end the DC universe, and now it's all rebooted?
No, they didn't quite reboot it, but they launched Future State. It's certain things ended and certain things didn't. It's so complicated. Nobody's like running the same gambit of editorial over at DC Comics. It's the same problems they're always having.
Yeah, because I go through the weekly books, and there's some storylines that are still going regular, and then you have Death Metal, which looked like the end of the DC universe, and then Future State just started. But I know you want to keep things short, so we'll wrap it up. And Chris, where do you like people interacting with you?
They can go over to, we got a new episode of Goth Girl Horror coming out this week, covering Ava, Daughter of Dracula versus Hack Slash issues 1 and 2 with me and Charcy. And anybody who kickstarted Vlada, A Dracula Tale, we are printing that this week, and we'll be shipping it out as soon as the printed books come to me. But we are finished with the art, and we are putting the book together now to send to the printer.
Awesome.
So 300 copies of that going out to Kickstarter backers. And then I got an additional 115 orders for retail.
That is awesome. Huge congrats on that.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
By the way, the Wicked Horror Show is live right now.
Oh.
You can't have competing Dorkening Network shows happening at the same time.
Well, I mean, we plan to be done by around 9ish. So we're wrapping up. Velvet.
Just a quick thing with Spider-Man. You were playing the Spider-Man PS4 game. Did you finish it?
I did.
Okay. So the Miles Morales game, not spoiling the ending, but the post-credit scene ties into the post-credit scene of Peter's game with Norman Osborn checking in on his son, and we see some black stuff in a jar.
Oh, okay.
They're definitely setting up the sequel to be obviously, the debut of Venom.
Yeah.
Venom.
I didn't 100% the game, and I'm waiting to do that with once I get a PS5. Because I want to replay the remastered and obviously pick up Miles. Because the pictures I've seen look amazing on PS5.
Miles was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There's also a couple of tie-in novels that you could pick up if you really wanted to. Peter's got one that takes place before his game. It's about his investigation of Kingpin, which leads into the beginning of his game. And it's Miles's novel is Peter giving him permission for the first time to finally go out as Spider-Man.
Nice. Marvel really knows how to do the tie-ins. And how about you, Velvet Joker? What do you like people interacting with you?
Well, I'm Rich Davis here on Facebook or CT Joker. or you can find me on Instagram, CTJoker2014.
Cool beans. And for me, just Google Leo Pond. You find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not, but you can find me, always here every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on our broadcast. And just a little self plug, we do have Dorkening shirts available. There's a link in the show notes. If you head to tinyurl.com/dork shirts, they're available on Amazon. I just talked to somebody that ordered one and they show up like in a couple days. It's kind of crazy. So it's all custom printed, and I think it's like 3 or 4 days you get your shirt. But when you go to it, Amazon tells you all that. And with that, I want to thank everybody for watching or listening. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye-bye.